The colony market was full of noise, light, and colors, but in the middle of all this life sat a figure who seemed invisible. She was small, fragile, and her alien features were softer than most of her kind. Her clothes were worn, her eyes carried the weight of loneliness, and her posture showed years of rejection. She was an orphan, abandoned long ago, and no one wanted to be near her. Traders shouted prices, customers bargained. Children laughed and ran between the stalls, yet whenever someone's gaze fell on her, they quickly looked away. Some even frowned as if her very presence was unpleasant. The alien orphan had grown used to this treatment. She was not seen as a woman, not seen as a future mate, not even seen as someone who belonged. She was simply there, like a shadow that nobody wished to notice. She sat at the edge of the market, near a pile of broken crates, trying to keep warm against the chill of the evening wind. Hunger gnawed at her, but she dared not beg. She had tried once before, only to be laughed at and pushed aside. To her people, she was too weak, too strange, too worthless. Even when the pairing ceremonies came, when families looked for young women to marry into their homes, no one ever called her name. Her heart ached every time she watched another couple walk by. Aliens of her kind looked at her with pity or disdain, whispering that she would never find a mate. Some even said she should not have survived after her parents died. The orphan kept her head low, pretending not to hear, but the words cut deeper than any blade. That night, the market lights burned brighter than usual, for a festival was near. Music played from strange instruments, spices filled the air, and groups of people gathered to celebrate. She stayed hidden in the shadows, afraid that if she came too close, someone would push her away. Her chest felt tight, and her throat burned with unspoken cries. She wanted someone, anyone, to look at her and truly see her. Then it happened. Among the crowd walked a human. He was taller than most, his steps steady, his eyes scanning the stalls with curiosity. The market rarely saw humans, and so his presence drew whispers. Some pointed, some stared, but the man did not care. He walked with quiet confidence. His face carried no cruelty, no judgment, only calm awareness. For a moment, his eyes moved across the busy market, and then, unexpectedly, they landed on her. The orphan froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. She told herself he would look away, just like everyone else. But he did not. His gaze lingered, not with pity, not with disgust, but with something she had never seen before. He looked at her as if she was real, as if she mattered. The human tilted his head slightly, studying her from afar. He did not rush closer, did not mock, did not whisper. Instead, he simply acknowledged her presence. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was not invisible. The orphan tried to look away, her cheeks warming under his gaze. Why was a human noticing her when even her own kind refused to? Was this a mistake, a trick, or something else entirely? Suspicion and hope clashed inside her chest. Her hands trembled as she pulled her cloak tighter around herself. As the human drew closer to the stalls near her corner, others turned to watch him. Their whispers grew louder, warning each other not to trust humans. Some merchants even stepped back, but he ignored them. His steps were slow, steady, as though he had already chosen his path. The orphan's throat tightened. Her heart whispered a dangerous thought. What if he came closer? What if he spoke to her? What if he truly saw her? She pushed the thought aside, afraid to believe, afraid to hope, yet her eyes betrayed her. Glancing up at him again, drawn to his presence like a moth to light, the market continued its chaos around them, but to her it felt as though the world had gone silent. Only one sound remained, the pounding of her heart as the human steps carried him nearer. Each breath felt heavy, every second stretched into eternity. Would he stop, or would he pass her like the rest? Her life had been filled with nothing but shadows, and now, a flicker of light stood before her. If he walked past, she feared the small spark of hope would die forever. If he stopped, everything she knew about herself might change. The air was thick with suspense as the human came within a few steps of her hiding place. His eyes softened, and his lips curved slightly. Not in mockery, but in something close to kindness. The orphan's chest heaved, tears threatening to rise. She whispered inside her mind, "Please, do not look away." And in that moment, under the lights of the festival market, when the whole colony bustled with joy and music, a poor alien orphan sat trembling in the shadows while a human stood before her. The world did not know it yet, but something powerful was about to begin. The human did not walk past. Instead, he slowed his steps, his eyes never leaving the orphan. She tensed, pulling her thin cloak around her shoulders, waiting for the moment when his gaze would shift, waiting for the familiar sting of being ignored. Again, but it never came. He stopped near the stall closest to her corner, his body angled so that she remained within his sight. The orphan's chest tightened. She wanted to hide, but her body refused to move. Her heart pounded, her hands shook. Why was he staring at her like that? As if she was not just another shadow in the market. His expression was unreadable serious. Calm, but not cruel. His eyes were steady, searching, as though he saw more than what was visible. The merchant at the stall tried to speak to the human, offering spices and fabrics, but the man waved him off politely. His focus was elsewhere. He crouched slightly, lowering himself so that his gaze matched the orphan's height across the broken crates. His voice came next soft, low, and careful. "Are you cold?" he asked. The orphan's throat went dry. No one had spoken to her directly in days, not like this. Her people either shouted insults or muttered behind her back. A stranger, and a human at that, had just asked her a question as if she mattered. She could not answer. Fear held her tongue. If she spoke, others would mock her later. If she stayed silent, perhaps he would leave. That would be safer. She lowered her head, pulling the hood tighter around her face, but the human did not move. His patience was strange. He seemed in no hurry. The market noise swirled around them, but in that small space it felt quiet. She finally risked a whisper, her voice barely carrying through the air. "Yes," she said, her tone almost breaking. Human nodded once, his eyes softened. He reached into the small bag slung across his shoulder and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Slowly, he unwrapped it, revealing a piece of warm bread. Fresh from some baker's stall, steam still rose from it. He broke it in half and placed one piece on the crate near her side. "Eat," he said simply. The smell made her stomach twist painfully. Hunger screamed inside her, but she hesitated. What if it was a trick? What if someone was watching? What if he wanted something in return? Yet the human did not push her. He set his own half of the bread to his lips, took a bite, and chewed. His act was clear. This was safe, meant to be shared. Her trembling hand reached out slowly. She grabbed the bread and pulled it close. Her first bite was small, nervous, but when the warm taste spread through her mouth, tears stung her eyes. It had been days since she tasted food that was not discarded scraps. She ate quickly, almost desperately, and the human watched in silence, not with judgment, but with quiet understanding. When she realized she had eaten the whole piece, she froze, afraid he might scold her for being greedy. Instead, he gave a faint smile. "You were hungry," he said gently. The orphan turned her face away, hiding the tears that escaped. She hated being seen weak, hated being reminded of her need, but at the same time, her chest felt strangely warm. He had noticed her hunger and answered it, not with cruelty, but with kindness. Others in the market began to whisper. Their eyes followed the human. Some laughed softly, mocking the orphan for clinging to a stranger's attention. Others muttered warnings. Humans could not be trusted. They said, they always wanted something. They always brought trouble. The orphan heard the whispers, shame crawling over her skin. She expected the human to hear too, to grow embarrassed, to walk away before he ruined his own image. But when she glanced at him, he stood tall, unbothered. His gaze swept over the crowd once, then returned to her, steady and calm. "What is your name?" he asked. Her lips parted, then closed again. No one had asked her that in a long time. They called her many things, worthless, cursed, forgotten, but not by her real name. She had nearly forgotten how it felt to hear that question. She hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra." The human repeated it softly, as though testing the sound. "Lyra," he nodded. "A strong name." Her chest fluttered at his words. No one had ever called her name strong before. No one had spoken it without disdain. For the first time, she felt as though her name belonged to her. She finally gathered courage to ask, "Why? Why do you look at me?" Her voice trembled. The human's eyes held hers, steady and without hesitation. "Because you are here," he said simply, "and because no one else does." His words struck like lightning. For a moment, her mind was blank. Her people never looked at her, never saw her. But this human, this outsider did. He acknowledged her existence in a way no one ever had. Her heart ached with both fear and hope. She did not know if she could trust him. She did not know if his presence would bring danger, but in that moment, she could not deny the truth. Someone had finally seen her, and that simple gaze, that soft voice, felt more powerful than all the noise of the market, more dangerous than all the whispers of her people. For the first time in her life, Lyra dared to wonder if her fate could change. The human straightened, his expression calm, but his eyes burning with something she could not name. As he turned to walk further into the market, he spoke without looking back. "I will see you again." The orphan sat frozen, her heart racing, her hands clutching the last crumbs of bread. His promise echoed in her ears, stronger than the laughter of her people. For the first time, she was not invisible. The next day, the market was alive again. Colors, smells, and loud voices filled the air. Lyra sat in her usual corner, her cloak pulled tight, but something inside her was different. She still felt the cold, still felt hunger, but she also carried a strange warmth in her chest. It came from the memory of the human, from his eyes, his words, and his promise. She had not expected him to return, but a small spark of hope made her heart restless. She kept glancing toward the crowd, her ears alert for his voice. Her people walked past as usual, ignoring her, but now she noticed something new. Their stares lingered longer, their whispers sharper. "There she is again, the cursed one," one alien woman muttered, loud enough for Lyra to hear. "Did you see yesterday? She was begging the human for food." Lyra lowered her head. Her cheeks burned. Another voice joined. "It's true, I saw it. She took bread like a starving animal." And the human, why would he even bother? Laughter rippled around, cruel and sharp. The words pierced Lyra's heart. She wrapped her arms tighter around herself, wishing she could vanish. But then another voice, deeper and full of scorn, cut through the noise. "Perhaps she plans to trick him. Humans are foolish sometimes. Maybe she thinks he will choose her as a mate." Pathetic. No one from our kind wanted her. Why would a human? The group burst into laughter. Some threw small bits of trash toward her corner. One piece struck her cloak. She flinched but said nothing. Her body shook, shame weighing heavy. Yet even through the cruelty, the spark of hope inside her refused to die. She remembered his gaze, his voice. "I will see you again," he had said. Those words echoed against the mockery, like a shield she tried to hold. As the laughter grew, a hush suddenly spread across the market. The crowd shifted, and Lyra felt the air change. Her heart raced. She looked up and saw him. The human, he had returned. He walked through the market with the same calm steps, his eyes searching until they found her. And once again, he did not look away. The group of aliens who had mocked her earlier fell silent. Their laughter stuck in their throats. Some tried to stand tall, others looked nervous. The human stopped only a few paces away from Lyra. His gaze moved from her trembling figure to the group, who had thrown insults. "What did you say?" His voice was low, steady, but it carried across the market like a blade. The aliens shifted uneasily. One of them forced a laugh. "We were only joking, human. She is nothing. Why waste your time?" The human's eyes hardened. "Nothing," he repeated slowly, His gaze then returned to Lyra. His jaw tightened. She is not nothing. The word struck everyone. The market grew quiet. Merchants paused. Customers turned. Even the music from a nearby stall seemed to fade. Lyra's heart pounded. No one had ever defended her before. Not once. Not when she was mocked. Not when she was shoved aside. But this stranger, this human, had spoken for her. His words felt like a fire in her chest, burning away the cold. The group sneered, trying to recover. You do not understand our ways. Human, she is unfit, she is weak, she is nothing but a burden. Our people do not see her as a woman. Why should you? The human stepped closer, his presence towering, his voice firm. Because I see her. Gasps moved through the crowd. The market buzzed with whispers. Some muttered that he was mad. Some hissed warnings that he should leave her be. Others looked at Lyra with new eyes, mixed with curiosity and suspicion. Lyra's breath shook. Her hands trembled against her cloak. She could barely believe what she was hearing. His words wrapped around her like armor, fragile yet powerful. The mocking group shrank back, unable to match his steady gaze. One spat on the ground and muttered, "Foolish human," before walking away. The others followed quickly, leaving only the whispers behind. When they were gone, the human turned to her. His expression softened. He crouched again, meeting her eyes. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head quickly, though tears glistened in her eyes. "No," she whispered, her voice breaking. He studied her face, then nodded slowly. "Good." He paused, as if weighing his next words. "Not believe them, Lyra. Their voices are loud, but that does not make them true." Her throat ached with unshed tears. She wanted to believe him, but years of rejection clung heavy still. Hearing her name in his voice made something inside her begin to heal. For the rest of the market hour, he stayed nearby, not forcing words, not demanding anything, simply present. And with every passing moment, she felt a little less invisible, a little less worthless. But the whispers did not stop. As the human walked with her, voices rose again, some full of mockery, some full of warning. A human with her. He must be desperate. This will bring trouble. Mark my words. This will end badly. The orphan heard them all, each word tried to bury her hope. Yet when she glanced at the human, his calm gaze steadied her. He did not flinch, did not turn away, and in that moment, she realized something terrifying. The more he stood beside her, the more dangerous her life might become. His presence challenged everything her people believed. His kindness was not just noticed, it was judged. Her heart ached with confusion, torn between fear and longing. But deep inside, one truth pulsed stronger than the rest. For the first time in her life, she was not standing alone. That night, when the market finally grew quiet and the crowds faded away, Lyra remained sitting by the crates. Her stomach was no longer empty, but her heart was restless. The words of the human echoed inside her mind, stronger than the whispers of her people. He had defended her. He had called her name as if it mattered. When the last stall closed, the human returned. His steps were calm, his figure tall against the glow of lanterns that still burned over the streets. He did not seem to care that others were watching. He carried himself as though nothing about this moment was shameful. Lyra lifted her eyes nervously, her voice breaking as she whispered, "Why? Why are you here again?" The human crouched down, close enough that she could see the faint lines on his face, the tiredness in his eyes, yet also the fire behind them. "Because I told you I would see you again," he said. His tone was steady, simple, as though it was the most natural truth in the world. She lowered her gaze, her hands clutching her cloak. "But you should not. They will hate you for this. They already mock me, if you stay near me. They will mock you too." He tilted his head slightly. "Let them," he said. His voice carried no fear. Her chest tightened. His calmness was like a wall, but inside her there was only trembling. "You do not understand," she whispered. "You do not know why they treat me this way." The human's eyes softened. "Then tell me," he said gently. Lyra froze. Her lips trembled. Her whole life. No one had asked her story. No one had cared enough to know. To her people, she was a mistake, a burden, a curse. Yet this human asked not with judgment, but with quiet patience. She swallowed hard, her voice unsteady. My parents. They were miners. They worked in the deep tunnels on the colony's edge. When I was small, there was an accident. Gas flooded the shafts, and they never came back. Her breath shook. No one wanted to care for me after that. I was too young to work, too weak to help. The families looked at me and saw nothing useful. So they left me alone. The human's jaw tightened. His eyes did not waver. He let her continue. At first, I thought, maybe when I grow older, someone would see me differently. Someone would take me as a mate, or give me a place. But when the time came, no one called my name. Not once. They said I was cursed, that anyone who chose me would share my bad fate. She tried to hold back the tears, but they spilled. And so I stayed here, forgotten year after year. Her words broke into silence. The night air felt heavy. Her hands trembled as she wiped her face quickly, ashamed of her weakness. She expected him to pity her, or worse, to walk away. Everyone always walked away once they knew, but he did not. The human's voice came low. Firm. You survived, Lyra. Blinked, confused. What? You survived? He repeated. His eyes were steady. They left you, they mocked you, they starved you, and still you are here. That is not weakness, Lyra. That is strength. Her breath caught in her throat. His words shook her deeper than the cruel whispers ever had. For so long she believed she was nothing but broken. Cursed, useless, but in his eyes she was strong. Tears fell faster, though now they burned differently. Her chest felt strange, as if something heavy was being lifted for the first time. The human reached into his bag again. Pulling out a small flask of water, he offered it to her. She hesitated, then took it carefully, drinking slowly. The cool taste eased the dryness in her throat. When she finished, he gave a faint smile. See, even now you keep fighting. She stared at him, her lips trembling. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this for me? You do not even know me. He looked at her quietly for a moment, then said, because I know what it means to be alone. Her eyes widened. He rarely spoke of himself. But in those words, she felt a shadow of his own pain. She realized he carried his own past, his own scars. He understood her not because of pity, but because he had walked in loneliness too. They sat together in the quiet of the empty market. Two broken lives touching for the first time. Around them, the colony slept. But in that moment, something began to awaken inside Lyra. For the first time in her life, someone had not turned away from her past. Someone had not seen her as cursed or useless. Instead, someone had seen her strength. And that someone was human. When the lanterns dimmed and night grew colder, the human finally stood. He looked down at her and said, Rest tonight. Tomorrow, I will come again. Her breath caught. She almost begged him not to, afraid he might change his mind. But his voice was certain, firm. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Lyra clutched her cloak, her heart pounding. Her tears still fell, but they were no longer only tears of pain. They carried something else now, something fragile but powerful, hope. As she curled against the crates, closing her eyes, she whispered his words to herself. Like a shield, you survived. And for the first time she began to believe it. The morning sun rose over the colony, painting the market in gold light. Lyra sat quietly in her usual corner, but her heart no longer felt the same. The memory of last night still lived inside her, the human's words echoing, you survived. They gave her strength to breathe, to wait, to hope. When the human returned, as he promised, the whispers began immediately. People pointed, merchants shook their heads, and voices hissed from every corner. There he is again, still speaking to her. Does he not understand what she is? The air was thick with judgment, but the human walked calmly, his steps steady as always. He came to her side and sat on the crate beside her. For a moment, the entire market seemed to freeze. Lyra's chest tightened. She wanted to warn him to step away, to save himself from their hatred, but the words refused to leave her mouth. "They will not stop," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The more you stand with me, the more they will turn against you. You should leave me before it is too late." The human turned his head slowly, his eyes locking with hers. "And if I leave, what then?" he asked softly. Her heart ached. She dropped her gaze. "Then you will be safe," she murmured. "Safe from their hate, safe from their judgment, safe from me." His jaw tightened. His voice was calm but heavy with resolve. "I have been safe all my life, Lyra, and safe as never met alive." Her breath caught. His words struck deep. He was not speaking only about her. He was speaking about himself too. She could see it now. He carried his own scars, hidden beneath his calm. His choice to stay near her was not born from pity, but from something far stronger. The crowd's whispers grew louder. A group of elders passed by, their expressions sharp with disapproval. One stopped, glaring at the human. "Leave her," the elder demanded. "This is not your place, human. You do not know what you risk by standing with her. She will bring you only shame." The human rose slowly to his feet. His tall figure cast a long shadow. His eyes burned with quiet defiance. "I know exactly what I risk," he said firmly, "and I choose it." Gasps echoed through the market. Merchants stopped their trade. Children froze mid-play. Everyone stared as his words cut through the noise. The elder's face twisted with anger. "Fool," he spat. "She is no woman. She is no future. She is a curse. If you stay with her, you will share her fate." The human's gaze hardened. His voice was low, steady, unshaken. "If her fate is loneliness, then I will share it. If her fate is rejection, then I will bear it. But do not call her curse. She has more strength than any of you will ever admit." The elder's eyes widened. The market fell silent. For a moment, no one dared speak. The elder finally turned, muttering in disgust as he walked away. The others followed, their whispers sharper than knives. Lyra sat frozen, her hands trembling. Tears blurred her vision. She had never heard anyone speak for her like this. Not once. His words were dangerous. His choice was reckless. But they were also the most beautiful words she had ever heard. "You should not have done that," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They will never forgive you for this." The human crouched again, his eyes soft but steady. "I do not need their forgiveness," he said. "I only need to know what you want. Do you want me to leave, Lyra? If you tell me to, I will." Her heart pounded. She stared at him, trembling. All her life, choices were made for her, ignored, abandoned, mocked, unwanted. But here he was, giving her the power to choose. For the first time her voice mattered. Her lips quivered. I do not want you to leave," she whispered. The human gave the faintest smile, small but full of warmth. "Then I stay," he said simply. The market stirred again, whispers swelling like waves. Some laughed cruelly, some muttered threats, others looked with shock. But in that corner, Lyra felt something she had never felt before. She was not alone. The human remained by her side the rest of the day. He spoke little, yet his presence spoke louder than words. Every glare from the crowd, every mocking whisper, he absorbed without flinching. His choice was clear, his loyalty unshaken. As evening fell, Lyra's chest burned with both fear and hope. Fear of what their people might do, hope that maybe, just maybe, she was worth choosing. She looked at him as the last light faded, her voice soft but trembling with awe. "Why do you keep doing this?" His eyes met hers, steady and unshakable. "Because you deserve more than shadows," he said. "And I will not let them blind you again." Her tears fell freely, but this time they carried no shame. They carried something new, something she was still learning to believe in. Faith. That night, as the lanterns lit the dark streets, Lyra realized a truth she could not ignore. The human had made his choice, and it was her. The next days passed with growing tension. The human's presence beside Lyra became impossible to ignore. Everywhere they went, Eyes followed them. Whispers cut the air, and disapproval grew heavier. It was no longer just insults. It was anger. Merchants began refusing to sell to the human. Some closed their stalls when he approached. Some spat on the ground in front of him. Lyra saw all of it. Her chest ached with guilt. She whispered again and again, "Please, leave me, save yourself." But every time he shook his head, calm and unshaken. One evening, as the sun set and the market glowed under lanterns, a group of young men blocked their path. They stood tall, their eyes sharp with hostility. "Human," one said coldly, "this ends tonight. You will not shame our people any longer." Lyra froze. Her blood turned cold. She had seen this look before, the look that came before cruelty, before pain. She tried to step back, but the human gently moved in front of her, his body shielding hers. "I do not seek to shame anyone," he said evenly. "I only choose where I stand, and I stand with her." The men sneered. "You insult us with every step beside her," one spat. "She is not one of us. She is nothing. And your kind is not welcome here." The crowd began to gather, whispers swelling. Some cheered the men, some muttered warnings. Fear spread. Through Lyra, she pulled at the human's arm, whispering desperately, "Please go. Do not fight them. They will kill you." But the human's eyes burned steady. He spoke loud enough for all to hear. "You call her nothing, yet she has survived. More than any of you, you mock her, but you fear her strength. You call me foolish for standing with her, but perhaps it is you who are blind." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The young men bristled with rage. One stepped forward, shoving the human's chest. "Leave," he growled, "or bleed." Human did not move back. His jaw clenched. "If bleeding is the price of standing with her, then I pay it." Lyra's heart broke. She clung to his arm, tears streaming. "No, please. I cannot lose you." For a tense moment, it seemed the men would attack. The crowd leaned in. Breaths held. But something in the human's steady gaze made even his enemies hesitate. His calm defiance, his refusal to break, unsettled them. Finally, one spat on the ground. "You are a fool," he hissed. He turned sharply, and the others followed, muttering curses as they disappeared into the alleys. The crowd buzzed, half in awe, half in disgust. The whispers grew louder. "He will bring ruin. He will change nothing. He is mad." Yet others whispered differently. "He is not afraid. He stood against them. He sees her." Lyra collapsed against him, her body shaking. He wrapped one arm gently around her, steadying her. His voice was soft now, meant only for her. "I told you, I will not leave." Her tears soaked into his sleeve. Her heart pounded, torn between terror and hope. Against all odds, he had stood for her. He had faced what no one else dared to face. Later, when the market quieted, Lyra whispered, "Why risk so much? Why fight for me when the whole world is against us?" The human looked at her, his eyes calm but filled with something unspoken. "Because the whole world is wrong," he said simply. "And sometimes it takes only two to begin a change." She stared at him, trembling. His words were dangerous, but they burned with truth. For so long she believed herself powerless, cursed, forgotten. But with him beside her, she felt something new stir inside strength. Days passed, and the tension only grew. The colony did not forgive easily. Yet the more they tried to push the human away, the stronger he stood, and the more he stood, the less Lyra felt like a shadow for the first time. She dared to walk through the market at his side, instead of hiding behind crates. For the first time, she held her head a little higher. She still felt the stares, still heard the whispers, but beside him, she found courage. Still, danger was never far. Rumors spread that the elders were meeting, speaking of punishment, of forcing the human to leave. Lyra heard the whispers and felt dread in her chest. But when she told him, his eyes remained calm. "Let them speak," he said. "They cannot take away what we have already chosen." Her heart trembled at his words. His choice was clear. Her choice was forming. And together, they were becoming something no one could ignore. One night, as they sat under the dim lanterns, Lyra whispered, "They will never accept us." The human's hand brushed gently against hers. A simple touch, steady and warm. "Then we will accept each other," he said. Her breath shook, her tears fell again. But they were not only tears of fear anymore. They carried something stronger. Something she was finally beginning to understand. Against all odds, she was no longer alone. Against all odds, a human had chosen her. And against all odds, she dared to believe she was worthy of being chosen. Asterisk. The colony was restless. Days of whispers and tension had turned into open debates. Some said the human was dangerous, that his presence would bring shame to their people. Others whispered differently. Their words were quiet, but they carried a strange curiosity. Why did he stay? Why did he choose the orphan? Lyra felt the weight of every stare. Every step through the market was like walking through fire. Yet she also felt something she never imagined before. She felt his hand steady near hers. She felt his calm strength at her side. She was no longer invisible, no longer alone. One evening, the elders called for a gathering. Lanterns were hung high, the entire square filled with voices. Lyra stood at the edge, trembling. The human stood beside her, tall and calm, his eyes steady. An elder stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Human, we have seen your defiance. You shame yourself and insult us all by standing with her. This ends tonight. Leave this colony and take your foolish pity with you." The crowd murmured in agreement, but also in unease. Some nodded, some shook their heads. The human's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, his voice firm but not angry. "You speak of shame. But it is not shameful to see someone. It is not shameful to give kindness. It is not shameful to choose what others are too blind to see." The elder sneered. "She is cursed. No one wanted her. She is no woman, no mate. Nothing but a shadow." Before Lyra could lower her head in shame, the human spoke louder now, his voice carrying across the square. "Then I will speak the truth you all refuse to hear. You call her cursed. Yet she has survived what would break many. You call her weak. Yet she has endured more than you will ever understand. You call her nothing, but to me she is everything." Gasps filled the square. The crowd stirred. Whispers rising. Lyra's chest heaved. Her eyes burned with tears she could not hold back. Never in her life had anyone spoken such words for her. The human turned toward her, his eyes soft now, his voice lowered, but still strong enough for all to hear. "Lyra, you once asked why I look at you. I look at you because I see you. I see the woman you are, the strength you carry, the heart that still beats despite all the pain. I see you, and I choose you." Her knees trembled. She almost fell. Her hands clutched her cloak, tears streaming freely. The world around her blurred. All she could hear were his words. All she could see was his gaze, steady, certain. The elder shouted in rage, "You cannot choose her, we forbid it." The human's eyes hardened. He stood tall, his voice steady. "You cannot forbid what is already chosen." The square erupted into chaos. Some shouted curses, others gasped in shock. But among the noise, something began to shift. A few voices rose differently, hesitant but real. "He is right. She has suffered enough. Perhaps she deserves more." Lyra's heart pounded. She had spent her life waiting for someone to see her, and now, in front of the entire colony, this human declared her worth, declared his choice. She felt like the world was breaking apart and rebuilding at the same time. Trembling, she stepped forward. Her voice was small at first, but it carried, "All my life. You called me cursed. You said I was nothing. You left me in the shadows, but I am still here. I survived." Her tears glistened under the lantern light. "And now, for the first time, someone has chosen me, not for what I lack, but for who I am." The crowd fell silent. Her words hung in the air. Her voice trembled but grew stronger. "You cannot take this from me. You cannot take this from us." The human reached for her hand. His fingers closed gently but firmly around hers. For the first time in her life, she did not pull away. She held on, trembling but strong. The square buzzed again, but the sound had changed. It was no longer only rejection. Some voices still cursed, but others murmured with awe. Children stared. Wide-eyed, some elders frowned, but others looked uncertain. The colony was divided, but a seed had been planted. Lyra turned her gaze to the human, her voice breaking but clear. If the world stands against us, then let it. I do not care anymore, because I would rather face it with you than hide alone. The human's eyes softened. His voice was quiet, meant only for her. Then we face it together, in that moment, as their hands remained joined under the lantern light. The whispers of the crowd faded in Lyra's mind. For the first time she felt whole. She was no longer the invisible orphan, no longer the unwanted shadow. She was seen, chosen, loved. The colony might never fully accept them. The elders might never forgive, but something had changed, not just for her, but for all who witnessed. A human and an orphan, standing against the weight of tradition. Together, they became something more. That night, as the stars spread across the sky, Lyra whispered into the quiet, her tears soft but full of light. I am not nothing. I am not cursed. And the human's hand squeezed hers gently as he answered, No, Lyra, you are everything. Against all the odds, against every voice that tried to silence them. Their hearts had found each other, and in that union, there was hope, not just for them, but for every soul who longed to be seen. Asterisk.